Okay, so continuing with the 2019 Paper 1 Comp Sci past paper, we're on question 2, and we're doing this card game pre-release program. Sorry, that's the shell. This is the code. Right, so this next question is a flowchart question, and you're expected to think about which instructions kind of fill in the gaps in the algorithm. And this is about the play game subroutine in the code. So let's have a look at where that's defined. I'm just going to use find Control F to find it. So these are the instructions that it's like one of the most top level functions, and you play the game while either player has a card in their hand, and then it calls the other functions, etc. So let's see if we can find the first instruction in the flowchart, which is set player 1 rounds 1, 2, 0. So it's a process, and this is an assignment statement. So I can see at this point, this is this instruction, set player 1 rounds 1 to 0. So now I need to look at the next piece of the puzzle that I've got, which is set player 1 turn to true. And I can see that this is the next instruction. So the one that's missing must be this one in between. So it's where we set how many rounds has player 2 won yet? Well, that also needs to be 0. So that's the missing instruction. So what fills in the shape? We need to copy the format of this, which is set player 1 rounds to 0, but instead make it for player 2. So set player 1, set player 2 rounds 1 to 0 is the missing instruction. And the next one we've got, this is the while loop. So we're going to loop while ever there's still cards in someone's hand. So while ever cards in hand is bigger than 0. And then what happens next? So if that's true, then we're inside the loop. So then we've got a decision to make. So what is letter B? What's the figure? What's the symbol with letter B? So let's have a think about that. We've just done the while loop condition. So the next thing is this condition. And what is this doing? This is checking, is it player 1's turn? So this is shorthand in Python for saying if player 1 turn is equal to true. So if we just say if player 1 turn, and that's a Boolean value. So this is what we're checking. Is it player 1's turn? So we have a look. So the format given to us here is we are using the variable names, we are using the conditions. So maybe I'll change my mind. I am going to say is it, but I'm going to say is player 1 turn equal to true? Question mark. That was the name of the variable, right? Player 1 turn. Great. So when I first looked at this threw me off. So we've got a C, but if you look in the questions, we've only got 4 questions, and we're only asked to do A, B, D, and E. So we do need to look at C and D, but we also need to think about the logic here. So let's have a look at what happens if the condition in B, if player 1 turn is true, then we do these 2 actions. First of all, we need to get player 1's card, or their choice of card, and then player 2's choice of card. Let's see that in the code. Player 1's card and player 2's card. So on the other hand, if this is not true, then it must be player 2's turn. So player 2 gets to go first. So it's the same instructions, but in an inverted order. Choice 2 and then choice 1 instead of choice 1 and then choice 2. So how will that look in the question? So we're not going to answer with C. So it's not the first instruction, but it's going to be the second instruction. So what is that? Well, that's when player 1 gets their turn. So for this one, we can write the exact same thing here. It's going to be get player 1's card choice, which is symbol D. Get player 1's card choice. Is that the same? Oh, okay. They're not using the variable name. That's it. Player 1's card choice, rather. And lastly, we've got to do E. So what does this represent? Well, this represents the joining of the 2 branches. So what happens irregardless of the condition in symbol B? So it happens both when, yes, it is player 1's turn, and it also happens when, no, it's not player 1's turn, it's player 2's turn. So here we're looking for something after the if statement. So we can see that this block of code is the conditional statement. What's the first instruction that is non-conditional? And it's this instruction here, so getting the card values. So this is a function that gives us lots of variables. We get to know the suit, we get to know the rank of player 1's card, and we get to know the suit, and we get to know the rank of player 2's card. So I guess each player chooses a number in their hand representing which card they want to play. That's what this function's doing. So what could we say? So we get the suit and we get the rank of each chosen card. So get the suit and rank of each player's chosen card. Okay, so we finished question 2. Let's now start looking at section B. So section B, no, sorry, is this section B? It is section B. No, it's not. Question 3 is not section B. Ooh, I think I'm using the wrong version of the EAD, so I think this heading here for section B, don't worry, this shouldn't affect you. The first question in section B is actually 4, so that should go there. Okay, let's just do question 3, and then that will be the end of this video. Okay, so question 3. The main and play game subroutines each use one iteration structure. 3.1. A while loop has been used to achieve indefinite iteration in the main subroutine. Explain why a while loop has been used instead of a for loop. So do you know the difference between definite iteration and indefinite iteration? This is what this question is asking of you. So let's have a look at the subroutine. So main, and here is the subroutine. And we're saying we've got a variable again, and we set again to y. And then the main loop of the game is whatever we want to keep playing. So whatever again is equal to y. And this is indefinite. So what's the justification of why that's a for loop? Sorry, why that's not a for loop? Why is that a while loop? And of course, because it's conditional. It's indefinite. We don't know how many times the player wants to keep playing the game. The players want to keep playing the game. If we used a for loop, it would be definite, so it would be a known number of times. So let's put that into an exam answer. So an indefinite loop has been used as it is not definitely known how many times the players will want to keep playing the game. Let's put that in there. If a for loop definite iteration was used, this would mean the number of times the game is played is fixed to a specific number or something like that, a definite loop. All right, let's have a look at 3.2, the next one. The while loop of the play game subroutine has a condition that controls whether the loop will repeat or not. Some of the conditions described in Table 1 could have been used instead of the one used in the skeleton program, and this would have kept the same functionality. Write yes or no in each row of Table 1 to indicate if the stated condition would keep the same functionality as the condition in the skeleton program or not. The first row has been completed for you. Copy the contents of all the blank cells in Table 1 into your electronic answer document. Wow, wordy question. I do have to say that your particular exam is not as wordy as this one. I don't actually have a table, so don't worry, you will have the correct electronic answer document. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to insert a table just quickly. You won't have to do this. And just going to need to copy in some of these things. Player 1 wins is false. And once I've done the kind of admin, we can start thinking about what the question is asking of us. Let's insert another row, insert row below. And one more, insert row below. Tricky here. I've got sorry, you've got to be careful here because it's quite tricky. I've got a table split over 2 pages. Hopefully your EAD won't end up like this. Same functionality, and then they give us the first one. So I don't actually need this column. Let's delete it. Delete cells, delete entire column. It's been a long time since I've used Microsoft Word. Okay, let's stretch my table back out, and maybe I can get the things to fit now. Almost. Maybe we can get rid of some of this white space. Wowza. Really not fitting. Okay, so let's do the question. So we already know that cards in hand is less than 0. Okay, sorry. Let's relook at this. The while loop in the play game subroutine has a condition that controls the loop. Okay, so let's look where play game is defined, and then let's look at the while loop. We were looking at this before. So while cards in hand is bigger than 0. Okay, so let's see what is the equivalence of this condition. So player 1 wins is false. Is that the equivalent of running out of cards? We got player 1 wins. No, because player 1 could player 1, that's just one specific round. So the answer to that one is no, because just because one of the players has won, it doesn't mean that they've used up all of their cards. Cards in hand does not equal 0. Well, I think that is the inverse. And it's the inverse, so that would have to be no as well. Size of player 1 hand is greater than 0. Interesting. So could we have written that using player 1 hand? So the variable player 1 hand is an array, or a list in this case. And because it's reducing in size, I presume, somewhere. Let's have a look. Player 1 hand.